Hi, everybody. Rick DiClemente with you. Welcome to Astrology Unplugged tonight. Last week, we were just getting on a roll 1 hour into the show, and for whatever technical reason, I got thrown off. I couldn't lock it back in, so I just let it go. I tried. So when I was all done, it only remembered 9 minutes. So I tried to put the recording up, and it only had 9 minutes recorded out of 1 hour. So I don't know. So you'll recall last week that we were talking about the collective. We're going to pick up at that spot. So tonight we're going to talk about the collective, how it acts on the collective, and how it acts on the individual. Then we're going to shift to the video I've been promising you by Nick Arandes, who's a Course in Miracles expert, where he addresses the question, if we know something, how come we don't know anything? How do you straighten out that dichotomy? And he does a really good job in a little video that he had sent to me a while back. I'm going to play that for you later. Okay, so getting with the collective and what we're talking about. What I was trying to get to last week, and I just got warmed up, and I just figured out what I was going to say, and the whole thing cut out. So that's how it happens. In the collective, Pluto will have, I don't know how to put it. When you talk about karma and astrology is very difficult. When you talk about Pluto, Pluto will have some things for you. It'll have some things for the collective, and the same for Eris. Well, we're all pretty used to Pluto by now, since 1930, but Eris has only been with us for about 18 years, and Eris has really been affecting the collective for most of us. You cannot say that it's affecting it for everybody, because not everybody is sensitive to it. And then there's Eris and what it's doing to your individual chart. Those are two different stories. So Eris has been with us. Here she comes. Eris had been with us. Hold on, please. All right. Eris has been working on the collective for a long time now. We have not noticed it because at the same time that Eris was becoming dominant in our subconscious, Pluto was returning in the United States chart. So 250 years later, Pluto started returning about 2013, 2022, I guess. But the Pluto was being talked about as it got closer to Pluto, and everybody was going Pluto nuts. And at the same time, Eris was sneaking up on us. And Eris came through Trump. That's one thing that it did. The negative side of Eris came through Trump. The positive side has been coming to us through many different avenues. And I read you those key words a couple weeks ago about Eris being the planet that is fed up. It wants fairness. It wants equality. It wants people included. It will do what it's got to do. It doesn't care. Violent, yeah. Discord, yeah. It's not like Pluto. Pluto's different. Eris will do what it's got to do, but it's the one that says, you ever come into a meeting and the meeting is going on forever and you just get in and you say, everybody just shut up. Nobody's making a decision. Just stop it. We're going to all have hamburgers and we're making this decision right now. And it's all done. That's what Eris does. She's the final period. She doesn't care. She's really very intense. After all, her brother is Mars. Okay, so what I'm telling you is Eris has been affecting you for the last 18 years. Is that right? The last 18 years. It's been affecting your subconscious mind, and it's been growing in your subconscious mind to where you don't even notice it. Now look at what the collective does. The collective is very tricky. I was fascinated with why does the Beach Boys have a song called God Only Knows? And it's written down as one of the greatest songs ever written. God Only Knows. It's not even sung by Brian Wilson, sung by his brother. And I found out through deep research that the big reason it was shocking because it used the word God. That was the main reason in 1966 that beside God Bless America, you just didn't put the word God in the music. Besides the revolutionary music and music track and his instrumentation, phenomenal harmonies, all that stuff. But what I'm saying to you is the collective sneaks up on us and changes us, and we agree to it subconsciously all the time. Americans are real good at agreeing and not giving any resistance and bending into it, giving into it. Look at people living together now. They didn't live together 15 years ago. You were sinners. Look at people getting divorced. In the old days, man, they whisper about you all over town if you got divorced. It was bad news. It was a big deal. All the things that have become checked off. You can live with your girlfriend before you get married. Checked off. All these things become slowly, one thing at a time, okay to the collective. And they're happening all the time, and they really sneak through to us through television programs and through TV commercials. That's how they really get through to us. I made a few notes about some of the things the collective does. I tell you that you may not remember because you're not old like me and Sigmund and John. But in our day, you and Linda, in our day, you couldn't even use sarcasm. You couldn't use sarcasm in public. You got some dirty looks. And then being facetious, it came on top of that. Then it became okay to use sarcasm. How about the whole thing about smoking never bothered anybody? You're on the bus, you're on the airplane, you're in the doctor's office, everybody's smoking, all of a sudden, smoking bothers everybody. So you can see how the collective changes, and you can't take it for granted because it's always active, it's always very powerful, and it changes sometimes what appears to be against our own wishes. But that's not really true because it's always in accord of our wishes. So what I started thinking tonight is you need to understand the difference between Eris affecting the collective and Eris affecting you individually. Now, when I talk about Eris on the collective level, that's what I was doing last week when I got cut off. There are three ways when Eris became alive in our consciousness in 05 and 06. There are three ways that it started to affect us, and it's come on stronger for the last 18 years. Three ways that it works. One, you're numb to it. You don't feel anything. What Eris? I'll feel that. Describe Eris to people. Describe it to them. It's not me. I don't know what you're talking about. A lot of people have that because a lot of people are numb. I don't know why. A lot of people are just numb to certain energies. As Edgar Casey used to put it, he would be doing a soul reading and he would say, "Oh, Linda has never been in Neptune." That's how his exact words. What he meant was she's not sensitive to Neptune. Neptune doesn't do much in her chart. But his verbiage was, Linda has never been in Neptune. I don't know what he meant by it. He probably didn't either. It's all coming from the Akashic records. And more or less what that meant is you could take an eraser and take Neptune off of Linda's chart. Okay, with the collective, in 1930, when Pluto was discovered, it manifested seemingly through the Great Depression. But if it wasn't a depression, you still would have had Pluto coming into the consciousness of all people on the planet. Some people wouldn't notice it very much. Other people would be devastated, and the artists would be devastated 10 years before because they're super sensitive. Then you got type 2 person. Type 2 person are the Trump orangites. Okay? They're the ones that are abusing Eris energy. And I will stand my ground behind what I'm saying to you. In other words, Eris is about taking the people who've been unfair and getting them to start treating people fairly. And if you have noticed, Trump's middle name is fair/unfair. If you ever noticed, it's the only word he uses because it makes him a victim. It makes him a victim, right? And when you're a victim, you're just not to blame. So the people abusing Eris energy are blaming all the time. They're blaming the other. They're blaming them. I'm not saying pro-Democrat. I'm not saying pro-Republican, but that's what they're doing. And they're really, if you watch Fox, you can see unbelievably how anti-democratic they are. They've been programmed heavily against the Democratic Party. Well, my job here is not to lean you towards either one, but my job is to teach you what the truth is. Now, it is my opinion that this is how Trump got such a big following, because he got you able to follow different truisms. Something's true here, but it has a different truth over here. He's just full of S. He's just full of it. And he's got these people that have been okayed that they no longer have to think. They don't have to think because they just started from the TV network. You hear them interviewed, you hear him interviewed. His interviews are just ridiculous. So he's made it okay to not only not have to think, but he's made it okay for you to get mad and blame it all on them. And this is really, really dangerous. This is what we're left with. Remember, part one, the people that are numb. They don't notice anything. People that are too. They're feeling Eris. They want things changed. They want things to become fair. They want to be included, but they're doing all the blaming on the other. Now, in the good side, the people who've been picking up Eris properly since 05 and 06, they want the same thing about Eris, but they're not blaming the other. They're blaming the others who've really caused problems. They're not othering. There's the huge difference. So Eris has taken this group, like the Black group, the female group, all the Indian groups, the people who've been left out, left behind, smashed down, not counted. These people are arising now. They're not arising because of what's in your cereal box. They're arising because Eris is on the loose in us. Period. Even the astrologers don't know it. Now, the ones that are using it right, and I try real hard to use it correctly. I want the people excluded to become included. I want the people who've been treated unfairly to be treated fairly. I want the Justice Department to become better at treating people fairly. You know what I'm talking about. And most of the people here that I've witnessed are really good examples of Eris is alive, it's healthy, it's working through you folks. Now, that is because Eris has come into the zodiac. Now, as you know, and I know you don't all know this very well because it's not your thing, it's my thing. It's Claudia's thing to tell you exactly where Eris is. Well, Eris was about 6 degrees in 1952. It was at 0 degrees Aries in 1921. Right now, it's about 24 degrees of Aries. So it's spending all its time, 125 years, in the sign of Aries. It moves very slowly. Rather, it moves very fast, but it's got a very long trip because it's way out there, 550 years to go around the circle. So that is the collective. Just it being in the sign of Aries, all things that are Aries ruled get affected by it. The sign of Aries, yes, gets influenced by it. The sign opposite of Libra, yes, gets influenced by that, etc., etc. That is the collective experience. Now, what I've been trying to show people, and I don't think they're watching, because I don't think they can appreciate what's really going on. I've shown you so many remarkably powerful people in our history that have a phenomenal aspect between their sun and Eris, between the moon and Eris, between the sun square Eris. When you have it natally at a degree that aspects your other natal planets, then you're picking up great power. Now, Deborah, I was talking to you several months ago, and I was really wondering because I was getting to notice how political you were, and I could see the earthboundness of your Taurian nature, of course. But I started to wonder, this woman must be very Eris. Can you tilt your camera down, please? Deborah, I can't see you. There we go. Thank you. Okay. So you remember I called you and I talked to you, and I looked up and I can't remember at the moment, but she's got Eris on one of her main planets. Tauruses don't get off their butt and complain about politics all the time. They just don't do it. Tauruses lay back, go out to Rick's screened-in porch. Let's go out to the hammock. Let's take it easy. Let's take it easy. Life is to be enjoyed. Give me a hoagie. That's Taurus. So I saw all this continual activity out of her chart. I went back and looked at it, and it was very similar to mine, where I'm born with Jupiter and Eris at the same degree. I can't keep my mouth shut. And Deborah has something similar. I can't remember exactly, but she has a very strong Eris. And when you have a strong Eris, you have 3 choices. One, you can be numb to it, and that's really dangerous because we're feeding in tons of water pressure and it ain't getting in. What does that mean? It just is dangerous. 2, it's coming through you, but it's used negatively. And that's really scary because then you're out blaming everybody and you're the first one on the back of the truck with the M16. Or 3, you're using it properly, like I tried to do, like Deborah tries to do, and most of you do. That's why I've even had sessions on here in the past where I've stopped and I've gone through each of you where your natal Eris is in position in accord to the rest of your chart. So do you understand? Eris can be a collective force. It can be an individual force. It can be both. It can be turned off. It can be turned on incorrectly, or it can be turned on correctly. Now, I don't know how blind you are, or I am, or you are not, and I am not, but you've had to see in the past, especially the past 6, 7 years, that people are upset. And they're not just upset because of the Pluto return. And the Pluto return in the United States chart is a completely different story. And the reason it's been tough is because we are going through an identity crisis. We are being forced to look at the ugly American. We are being forced to see ourselves nakedly, being forced to see ourselves as we truly are. That ain't easy to handle, especially for a cancer country. Then comes along Eris. So you had to notice around you this thing about all these groups that aren't putting up with stuff anymore. All these people who've been put down that aren't going to be put down anymore. They're just not going to have it. All these groups that have been treated unfairly, that want to be treated fairly. That's what Eris is all about. She's about wanting to be treated fairly. But the thing about her is her methodology is chaos. That's how she acts. When she's not getting what she wants, she throws the apple through the window and crashes and causes chaos. Well, look at what this one orange individual has done to our democracy. People keep asking me, how does he keep getting away with his stuff? I go, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. I got tons of egg on my face all the hundreds of times that I said, boy, this planet's going to get him now. This planet's going to get him now. And he just keeps sneaking through. The guy's got a bucket pattern. All his planets are here, and Eris is over here. That's his chart. All his planets are in an arc. Eris is here. I'm going to tell you this. Now, you can do all the studying you want to do. You can do all the disagreeing you want to do. But there are certain things I know, and I don't know how I know it, but I know it. And I know this. Mr. Trump is an avatar. Some people come into our life as avatars. Their avatar is not always a good thing. An avatar can be a formation of a negative into a negative form. But he's, in my opinion, he is the ugly American. And I have told people, and I really believe this, I cannot think of one negative adjective in the dictionary that doesn't apply to this man. The only thing I can say to this man, to his positive, is that he dresses nice. He dresses professionally. It's the only thing I can think of. Now, what that has done, that has given permission to the negative forces to manifest. This is why he keeps getting off the hook. Plus, he's got the T-square to Jupiter and the moon. Jupiter just gets away with murder, whatever. I don't know. I stopped trying. But the point is that he has served his purpose by manifesting the negative in front of our own faces to see what are we going to do with it. This is not about being anti-Trump. This is about what are the rest of America going to do it when people in Australia and people in Europe are looking like this at us now? What the hell's wrong with America? And what's wrong with America is very, very simple. We don't want to be bothered. We're Cancerian. We want to go back and shut our door and be safe and sound, and nothing happens to me. And my little check comes every month, and I'm okay. And then you see the weather in Houston going crazy, and you see the wildfires going crazy. You see all these other things. How much does it take before we get up and do something? That's what's going on. Now, when you got this kind of result that we have now, and yes, we unfortunately have a very insane election coming. Just around the corner, and you know it'll be insane. We don't know what will happen. But the point is, once again, what are we going to do? That's the question. What are we going to do? Let's ask our two Australians. Let's ask Jane, and let's ask Naomi, just to be blunt and straight with us. What do you Australians say about America in the last 6 years?
Crazy.
Yeah. It just feels so it's sort of unbelievable, isn't it? It's just this sense of just the history that America has had, and now this incredible sense that how can one still be there? And to hear him this morning, our time, when he got out of his car and back onto his plane, it's just madness. It's madness.
It is madness. And you remember, I told you last week how the madness came. The Republican Party had a Neptune return and dissolved into nothing. Then the Uranus, opposite Uranus, came. And then they tried to reactivate. You can't do that. So all you can do is get some kind of mutation. It's just some wild mutation. But the thing is with him, he's got that Gemini Sag ability to look at you straight in the face and say, nothing ever happened. What? Nothing ever happened. And you got the strength of his ego holding up the walls of Jericho. And the rest of the world.
I'm getting a sense that there's more and more narcissistic humans. Just, yeah. I don't know.
I think that's the negative side of Eris. The positive side of Eris is I want us all to be fairly treated. The negative side is I want you to take the blame, then I'm off the hook. It's that simple. And that's what we're facing. And what we're facing in the near future is here we go again. And we're getting proof in front of our face that we can't go through another election cycle like we just did. We just can't do it. Whereas
so Rick, can I ask, do you think therefore, because you talk about the collective and how we're all connected, is it possible, do you feel, that we can change this with our minds, change this with our,
it's certainly possible. And I want to put it to you this way. The United States has a very weak chart. Once we started to put Uranus and Neptune and Pluto on the chart, we saw it's a baby chart. The United States chart is a baby chart. We tried to slip one in sideways in on everybody and steal all the resources and put it in our chart. That's what they did with America. They sucked up all the resources, all the fresh green. It's ours as American. And then once the other planets got put on there, as I've shown you the last few weeks, you see that it didn't work. But we hadn't seen Eris yet, and we hadn't seen Chiron yet. And they're two new hopefuls. And our Eris is really powerful. The United States has Sun, Jupiter, Venus, opposite Eris. Sun, Jupiter, Venus, the source of all our resources, all opposite Eris. That means you think you're going to go to the bank and reach in there and pull some money out? You're not going to get any of it till you get past the escrow part. It's being held in escrow by Eris. This is a big deal. You got the heart of our chart is exactly opposite Eris, and Eris is in control. Eris says, no, I'm not going to give you this money so you can buy a Corvette. I'm not going to give you this money so you can get some more beer. You're going to have to show me more out of your Sun in Cancer. You're going to have to show me more, me being a universal heights. You're going to have to show me more of a universal consciousness and more of a love of humanity. And that's where our hope is. That's where our hope is. That our sun in Cancer is going to be not happy. It's going to keep going to the bank. It's going to be unable to withdraw any of its goodies. Because Eris is going to say, no, I'm too smart for this. Look what you did with 250 years. Being able to withdraw whatever you wanted. What do the people talk about? Extraction, 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 extraction. Well, the soil is depleted. The air is depleted. The water is depleted. That's what extraction is. So the answer to you is the natal chart is weak, but because of the placements of the recent planets, the natal chart has changed. The natal chart is stronger, but it does not mean we're going to use it correctly. But it does mean we're going to be in for one hell of a bunch of chaos if we don't. Did you want to say something, Naomi? Thank you, Jane.
Yeah, to me, watching America, it's like a pendulum that has just swung so far to the other side of nothing's really fair over there, and the poor are getting poorer and the homeless, and
Right.
that situation seems to be out of control. So maybe, just observing it, that extreme has to happen for it to come back.
Well, I think you're exactly right. And I think what Jane was saying is exactly right. It's all up to now the Eris opposite those three planets. Because when you have an opposition to a planet, you cannot act without that planet involved. I have Sun right opposite Uranus. So people say, oh, Rick's Capricorn. He's Capricorn. Well, hell, he is. He sure acts like an Aquarian. Sun opposite Uranus. When you have an opposition, you are unable to get that sun on the stage singing its own song. It's not going to be allowed to, because every time it gets on stage, Uranus comes up there with it. And Uranus is a lot louder. The outer planets are more forceful. So this is the good thing that we have discovered recently, is the opposition to Eris. This is another reason that we better all get with it with Eris, because what's happening now, you see, it's not America's nature to raise hell. America's nature is not discord. Look what happened to America when the little baby gets lost in the well. Jessica, whole damn country stops till we get that baby out of that well. Beautiful, strong Cancerian energy to save the child. What happens when they lock all the kids, separate them from their parents, put the kids behind bars, separate them down in New Mexico and Arizona? I'm like them crossing my border. Completely different America, huh? So, the trouble with America is we don't have the nativity. We don't have the natural ability to face ourselves. Other signs can. Cancer just can't do it. Cancer's too threatened. Cancer shouldn't be able to do it because it's not Cancer's nature. But when you're opposite Eris, here's the news story. So the news story is, here we go. We're about to go into a new, and I'm going to get on to the next subject. We're about to go into a new election season. If the orange one has been anything beside a Gemini, he has been the negative side of Eris. Now, what are we going to do? Are we going to stick our head in the sand? Well, you can't do it. Your head's either in the sand and you die, or your head's out here breathing. So option one's not good anymore. It's down to two options. Are you going to follow the orange one with the orange ways of the negative side of Eris, or are you going to start with the positive side? The positive side, we're going to fix this stuff no matter how much it takes. If it takes discord, fine. But discord does not always mean an M16. discord can mean tremendous activity and revolution from the uproots, like my girlfriend's out doing tonight with the Democratic Party. She's not causing chaos. She's being chaotic to the whole system. So it's a matter now of two things. It's time for chaos. Is it going to be the good chaos or the bad? It's that simple. And you can see it yourself. If you try to do nothing, it will come at you through the weather. Because the weather is them, it's the outside, it's the exterior. If you try to do nothing and hide, it will come at you through the weather. Yesterday, I watched Bill Nye, the scientist, who's well known on American TV. He said climate change. He said, you're not going to get to a day where it's just all black or it's all burnt or there's no air. That's not what's going to happen. It's going to gradually, like my friend sent me his TV screen, copy and pasted, in Austin, Texas this week. The highs in the weather: 108, 108, 108, 108, 108, 108, 109. All this week. He said that's what's going to happen. It's going to just keep going gradually up and gradually up. And the problem with it is the body has been constructed through millions of years to only handle so much. You can only sweat so much. So it'll eventually just get overrun. So the point is now we still have tons of people showing us proof of how tragic this is, and we got better get to work, and we still have the deniers. And a lot of the deniers are not the money people. A lot of the deniers are not the Republicans trying to get rich. A lot of the deniers are the cancers that won't be disturbed. They don't want to be scared. Not on this show. I'm gonna scare you. I gotta scare you, I'm gonna scare you. It's not my job to keep you unscared. I'm sorry. Okay. Any question? Thank you, Linda. Glad you liked it. Anybody got any questions? Yeah, go ahead, Erica.
I have the perfect movie to illustrate what you're talking about with, people hiding their head in the sand and how the differences between the haves and the have-nots. It's called The Triangle of Sadness. It was nominated for Academy Award, but it never got it. And it is a Black comedy about two influencers, two beautiful models that hit it big, and they go off on this cruise on a yacht with all these billionaires, and what happens. It's really interesting movie, a great commentary. And I also wanted to say that the other day Trump told people that they should be more low class, that they're being too high class, and they need to get out there and cause trouble because they're not causing trouble for him, for everything that's going on. Just like he said he loves the uneducated and the stupid people, now he says he wants people to be low class. And people don't see that as an insult. He gives you
permission that if you are low class to stay that way.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on from this. Thank you very much. That's good stuff. I want to point out to you, we have to start saying no. I don't care how your no is shaped. We don't have to get violent. We don't need name calling. But we have to start saying no. Wake up. When the word woke is looked at negatively, you got a problem. All right. I've been promising you for several months now that I was going to show you the video that my friend Nick Arandes made. Nick is an excellent, he's a Spanish, excellent, he's Puerto Rican, excellent Course in Miracles expert. Now, you'll notice something on this show. No matter what you do, you're always going to get drawn back into the Course on this show. Then you get pulled away, then you come back. Okay, I'm not going to advocate studying it or not. Okay, it's very common. I've been involved for a long time, 30 years. It's very common for people to say, I pushed the book away, I couldn't take it, then I picked it back up. Then I got away, then okay, Susan, I'll see you. Pushed it away, then I took it back up. The Course is very controversial. It seems to be written in a style that's rather non-debatable. It's just truth itself given to you. It's not out there trying to say, you got to do this, you got to be on this team is right, my team is right, your team is wrong. It's not doing that. But what it is doing is stripping away the veneer. And it's showing you what's what when you start talking about what's real and what's not real. So anyhow, I got quite involved with Nick, and Nick was my guest on show number 100. You can go back and watch it if you like. He's just brilliant. Speaks Spanish fluently, speaks English fluently. He's a guitarist. He makes CDs. He's a comedian. He's an onstage comic. He's an author. He does all these things. He's really dynamic. He is a Virgo. And I would like to share you his chart after I get the okay from him. And he was gracious enough to not only come on the show at show 100, but I was lucky enough to read his chart to him, which was really pretty shocking. Nick is, let's just say, he must have a very strong Eris somewhere because he does not fool around. Okay, he's very humble. He's very reverent. He's very much here to serve God. And I got very confused one day, probably a year or two ago, and I sent him the question, why is it I keep reading all these course lessons that say, I know nothing? I know nothing. And the more you say, I know nothing, the freer you are. I said, how can I sit and talk about I know nothing when I know how to play guitar, I know how to make a movie, I know how to do astrology? He says, you're getting confused between knowing at one level and knowing at another. Okay? So I'm going to play you this 11-minute video, which was his response because he was kind enough to make a video in his response to me. And we will regather when this is over and address this question. Okay? Shout out loud if you have trouble hearing or if you have trouble with the video.
Hey Rick, how are you? Well, just going in, this is just a video just for you. And your question is, why is it that we know nothing? How can I get to know nothing when in fact I do? Okay. Well, the first thing we have to do is not confuse the levels. Okay. So let's go back to the analogy of the dream. There's one mind dreaming, and let's use myself. I am the only one mind that there is, and I start dreaming. When I begin to dream, I dream that there's a character in that dream that I call it Nick, that I call it I, that now thinks that it's talking to some other character within the dream. In this case, let's call it Rick. Okay. The character in the dream, okay, which is the illusion, put it this way, doesn't have knowledge for itself, doesn't have any kind of, knows absolutely nothing. It's just simply a puppet projected from the mind, the mastermind that is dreaming the whole thing. So everything that the character in the dream thinks that he thinks is actually a thought that I am putting in it. In the same way that the character in the other character in the dream that appears to be talking to this character I, all the thoughts, whatever is thinking or whatever is saying, is something that the mastermind puts into that character.
Nick is obviously living next to an airport on the Canary Islands, which are west of Spain. That's what you'll hear, the airplanes.
At this level, where we think we are, where I think that I am Nick and I think that I'm recording a video to Rick, okay? At this level, there is a mind, which we call it God, which is the one that supposedly is dreaming us. That's the one that is talking. That's the one that apparently is talking through me to you and you through me and apparently through all the different parts. See? So when we talk about I know nothing, what I mean is that I, this character, Nick, is simply a receiver, is an antenna that receives the information from that, call it the source. I know nothing. But capital I, which means the I that is dreaming you and is dreaming me, that's the one that knows everything. And it's just, again, going back to the analogy of the dream, we are just like puppets, so to speak. The only one that knows, capital I, is the wisdom that is a part of you, me, and everything. That's all that there is. When I'm talking here about I know nothing, it means that when I'm feeling this guilt, when I'm feeling that my peace is disturbed, it's because the mind is already evaluating. And in that sense, if I want to attend to the real peace, that is what is always, whether I'm making a potato salad or whether there's no potato salad and I cannot make a potato salad, whether there's money in the bank or there's no money in the bank, whether anything happens, this underlying peace is what is remaining, what is there all the time, okay? When I stop the evaluation process. Okay? And this is what I mean that if I want to attend, if I want to have access to that peace that we all have, that we all are, put it this way, or that happiness, all I need to do is get out of my own way. The only way I can get out of my own way if I am willing to be humble enough to know that I know nothing. You see? So don't confuse the I know in practical terms and the I know in wisdom. Once again, when my peace is disturbed, I'll write it down in here. It's I think it's chapter 14 or chapter. I'll put it in here. When my peace is disturbed, I just have to be willing to say that I know absolutely nothing. I don't know the meaning of anything here. So that way I can get out of my way, because if I'm evaluating something, then this idea that I know is what keeps me stressed. It's what keeps me in fear. It's what keeps me in anger, in fear, put it this way. So if I want to release fear altogether, all I have to do is be willing and open to the possibility that I don't know. And then from that space, that wisdom, which is what the Holy Spirit will do, it'll do the, it'll take care of the healing. You see, the healing is not on our part. We don't need to take care of, I mean, as a matter of fact, there's a line in the course that says miracles are, I mean, I'll write it down in here too, so you can see what it says. That you cannot be your own guide to miracles because you're the reason why they were necessary. In other words, I cannot be my own guide to healing because the reason why healing is necessary is because I believe that I am this. Okay. So once again, let's not confuse the level here. We're not talking about Rick, that Rick doesn't know, because Rick doesn't even exist. We're talking about the I that I'm identified with, the dream character knows absolutely nothing. But the wisdom that we're all part of it, that's the one that knows. And in order for me to be open to that, I have to get out of the way. That's why in the line, if you're willing to renounce to be the guardian of your thought system and offer it to me, I will correct it very gently and lead you back to God. That's the example of what I'm talking about. What it's saying is that if I'm willing to to come to the realization that I know nothing, meaning I'm not going to be guarding my thought system. I'm not going to be holding on to my beliefs of everything I think I know. If I'm willing to open myself up to that, then the Holy Spirit, talking in Course in Miracles terms, will do the work. It'll take care of the transformation in the mind. And then the result of that transformation is the inner peace that I immediately experience as I let go. See, as I surrender. That's basically, it's a way of saying that I'm humble enough to know that I don't know. And then the paradox is that when you're willing to know that you don't know, then you open. Because I'm not bringing my past. Remember, what I think I know is nothing but memories past. But how do I know if that's going to work here? Because it's always a constant present. See? So after this early passes, I'll give you the third. So in order for me to have access to that wisdom, right, which is what I am, not as a person, but as a whole, in order for me to have access to that wisdom, I have to be willing to know that I know nothing. That's the real power. That's why in the chapter that I was telling you before, I think section 11, chapter 14, I'll write it down in here and you'll see it written. It tells you that first you have to know that you don't know. And look how it tells you that it seems like you have lost your power, but you haven't lost your power. It's just simply that it's hidden under all the concepts you have about what you think you know. Healing means that I'm aware that I am not this character, this limitation to the totality. I am that which is that, of course, we cannot talk about it in words. That's what the Course in Miracles is a pointer. That's what there's a part of the course that says this course will lead you to knowledge. But that is beyond the scope of this, our curriculum, you see? And that there's no need to talk about something that is beyond words. So basically, again, it's very simple. Don't confuse the I know when you talk about Rick. Don't think, how can I not know if I do know? Again, which is the I we are talking about? That's what you want to keep your eyes on, your attention on. We're not talking about Rick. Rick is just basically a projection. We're talking about the wisdom. That is what it knows. But as long as that wisdom or that mind is identified with this little I, that think that knows, that's when the problem comes in. Because you're trying to make an evaluation of something in your experience based upon your limited perception, and that's what in the manual for teachers of the course talks about how can you make a judgment. In order for you to make a judgment, you would have to know all the possibilities, and we don't have that. I mean, I don't know what you're thinking. You don't know what I'm thinking. How can I make a judgment about anything if I don't know what all the possibilities are? You may say, oh, I know how I'm going to, what do I say, what do I need to do here? Because of yesterday, this is what happened, and I did this, and this happened. But how do you know if today, the circumstances, although the problem might be the same, the circumstances and the variables are in a different way, that if you do the same thing you did yesterday, this time it will be a complete flop. You see? Because you're not present. You're judging, and judgments come from past. From what I think I know, you see? So basically what I'm saying is that if you're open, trust that life will experience itself through you and you'll know what to do and what to say in each moment. And that's why I'm going to close this video with this prayer, this thing that I like at our Course in Miracles, which is basically a way of saying, I don't know. And to me, that's the greatest gift, because then I'm open and the Holy Spirit will use me for its purpose and not for the idea of what I think I want or desire, because in the end, all we want is the same thing, to experience the peace of God. And the only way that I can experience the peace of God is if I'm willing to know that I don't know.
Everybody hear that okay? Good. I'm going to turn all your thank you, Nick. I'll send him a special thank you. His other books get to be pretty heady. And the one I told you about, what happens when you let go, is the basic one. And then there's one, what happened after I let go. Then he's got two new ones. Yeah, well, you are welcome. Any discussion, any questions? I think you know what I was talking about when I asked him. By the way, he was near an airport, the Canary Islands, west of Spain, and since the last couple of years, he's not doing much in English anymore. He's got a lot of videos on YouTube in Spanish. He travels the world and is very, very popular and very powerful. So I think that even though some of these ideas may seem a little foreign, I think you can hear the similarities between him and Buddhist thought, him and Hindu thought, and even Christian thought. Any ideas, comments? Anybody? Yeah, Linda. Linda, go ahead, Linda. You need to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Hi. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that. I honestly don't know a lot about the Course in Miracles. I never was able to like fully engage, and I just connected with it totally. And strangely enough, I've had an experience since the new moon in June, exactly about this. And this is so weird, but it fits very well because everyone like, this is kind of like a miracle.
Weird,
So-
weird and funny equals truth.
Yeah, I know. It's real interesting. It's like, I think
It's just
when you
how it
said,
works.
yeah,
Yeah.
Buddhism, Hinduism, good Christianity,
Yeah.
it's all about surrender. And I did a workshop in June, and it was just a handful of people. It was a little bit of a fundraiser for someone. And people said, oh, we should do this more often and all this. And the next morning I woke up and I went, I'm done. I'm done. And what am I done with? And it said new career. And I said, what is my new career? My new career is kind of me, in a sense of like being that, of just being more aware of that I am a receiver. I'm not like the
Yeah.
generator. I am
And
the receiver.
that's exactly what at the
Yeah, it's pretty
end
cool.
of the book by Tesla.
Yeah,
Tesla said, remember,
yeah.
you are not here. You are a receiver.
I'm a
Don't
receiver.
forget it. And our problem comes in when we want to be more than that.
Right. Mhm.
And we're conned into thinking that being a receiver somehow isn't good enough.
It is what we are.
It's exactly right. And it is good enough. And that's what Nick was saying. I remarked, I found it remarkable that section he talks about what we think we know is really what we remember. And
Yeah.
if I went to your
Yeah.
door and knocked on it and you answered it, and I know that that's what happens, that doesn't mean tomorrow when I knock on your door, you're going to open it. It's just my past remembrance. And so that's what he's talking about. And that leads us back to living in the present, where you just knock on the door and you see what happens. But I think it's all tied very closely. And I think his appearance was very timely. Thank you, Linda. Any other questions? Anybody? Statements?
I just wanted to say, sorry, Claudia, just wanted to say, I had a real sense from that of a sort of peace about the orange one, about it's going, well, I don't know. I don't know.
You don't know. That's right.
Yeah, so it's sort of like, okay.
You don't
Anyway, that's
know,
all.
and he don't know.
Yeah, thank you.
Claudia, go ahead.
I love how we now are calling him the orange one. It's so
I love it. It's
You
just
know?
kind of manifested.
it's just funny.
He's the orange one.
Yeah. I really appreciate that video. Thank you for sharing that because seriously, I was having a difficult day today and Saturn just retrograded back onto my moon and I mean like clockwork. I didn't even realize it. And I was so I was just down and I was not myself and I was in my head and I was thinking, what is this time? I'm not working. What is this time supposed to be about? And why am I not getting that job? And why have I gotten all these rejection letters and blah, 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 and all this shit. And I laid in bed. Finally, I just said, just lay in bed. And I just said, I don't know. And then I took a nap and it was wonderful. And it seems stupid, but it's not.
It doesn't seem stupid.
It
You
is.
just let go.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. And one of the
You
things
don't know.
teaches me
Well,
a
you
lot.
must really be stupid because you don't know. Huh. You just
Yeah.
gotta be stupid, huh?
It's great to it's very freeing. And I
Yeah.
don't know, I won't know, and that's fine, like Linda was saying. And you said, I think there's something in our society that makes us feel like being a receiver is just not enough. Or it's, I mean, it's so makes perfect sense to me, and yet we don't live in that world. We like,
I do so many readings that end up with, but what am I gonna do? But what am I gonna do? But what am I gonna do? And I keep telling them, just relax and let it come through. And they just don't understand. They don't appreciate it. It's foreign to them. It's just foreign to them.
yeah.
This thought that it, whatever it is
Mhm.
going to keep on living through us and it'll be okay.
Yeah.
And you can see, and it breaks your heart, but you can see the struggle to know, I gotta find out,
Mhm.
I gotta strain, I gotta do this. You know, I'm a co-creator. I'm a co-creator. No, you're not. No, you're not.
Yeah.
Just relax. Enjoy your hammock.
Yeah. Yeah.
John, what do you think from what you heard on the video?
Well, I've talked about it before, but it was tremendous. I mean, about 25 years ago, I had an experience that I don't like to talk about, but what it made me realize is that I knew nothing. But that was such a wonderful thing. I felt so
Exactly
good
what
about
he's saying.
It's the greatest thing to realize you know nothing. But the thing is, I was unified with something that does know everything. So then a friend of mine named Jack, who you read some time ago, introduced me to the Course in Miracles. And I've read it for maybe 20 years. And it was something that put into words what I believe. And the thing is, not knowing anything is wisdom. It is wisdom to know that you know nothing. But where do you go from there? You have to know something to live. So you, in order to live with this unknowing that you have to let things flow through you. Because
So what is the answer to your question? Where do you go from there?
You will be told. you will be shown.
That's exactly right.
You have to
You
go
think
with the
you're
flow.
talking about is not important.
Right. If you go with your own ideas, you're right, because you don't know anything.
You're going down the drain.
Yeah,
You
but
cannot guide yourself.
this is the quantum. This is all about the quantum.
It's all
Uh,
about the quantum. Is
yeah.
exactly right. And that's what's going on now amidst all this other stuff. The quantum is edging its way into our center of our consciousness. At the same time, all this other stuff is happening.
Well, you know, my sense of religion, if all the religions of the world could be put together and reconciled and then lifted to a higher level, that would be my religion. But it doesn't exist anywhere. It's in the quantum.
But it does exist. It's just it can't be tight. It can't be tight. It can't be labeled.
You're right. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you. That was very good. I had a feeling you're right on track. Thank you very much. Dr. Sigmund, you have anything to add? No? Okay. Don't be offended, anybody, if I call you doctor or aunt or uncle. It's just the way we roll here. Come on,
Somebody
Teresa.
called you Big Daddy.
No, that's what he calls me.
Somebody did.
Yeah, he's
Surprise.
allowed. We had a beatnik thing going on, so that's where that goes. Naomi, anybody else? Teresa, anybody? What's on your mind? What did it make you think of?
And for me, it was a Buddhism philosophy, very strongly, and it's to let go and let God, and we haven't got that control. But I think when things get intense in your life and you're at a crossroad or there's pressure on you, it can feel kind of scary to really, that's when we really need to let go. But that's the hardest time to have that faith. It's easy in a day-to-day life, but when, things are going difficult, it's hard. That's
Exactly
when it's
right. That's why his first book is so good, because it addresses this specifically. These are when the things come up, these are your choices, this is what you do, and here's why.
Yeah.
It's just a marvelous book. What happens when you let go? Teresa? I know you got tons of ideas in your Libra brain.
Yeah, well, I know for myself, when I practice surrender, that's when I feel the best. I can be looking for an answer to something and drive myself crazy about it. And then finally it'll dawn on me, oh yeah, surrender. and then magically things happen.
Okay,
So
I like what you said, and that reminds me of Michael Singer. When you say let go, what do you do at that moment when you had that remembrance and you surrendered? What do you do to surrender?
Well, it's just a giving up feeling. See, words are too limited. It's so hard to explain what you feel when you surrender. It's just not resisting anymore. It's not fighting something. It's not seeking. It's just putting it in somebody else's hands. It's just allowing things to happen without forcing them. That's the best way I can describe.
Well,
when I had panic attacks in my mid-20s, 50 years ago, I had it for years and nobody knew. Back then, there was no such thing as panic attacks. They just said, just go home and relax. You're just nervous, whatever. Right. But you think that you're dying.
Of course you do, of course, because you get more and more wound up.
Right. And so
Yeah.
what I learned through somebody talking on television, a doctor, about this, I said, oh my God, that's what I have. And his remedy was to surrender. And that was the
Right.
first time I really heard that. And that really, and he said, you talk to it. You talk to
Exactly.
it meaning the fear, it meaning the panic. You talk to it, and you, that's your friend. That's your friend.
That's
You make it
exactly.
your friend. You make your enemy your friend.
I had
And
a I had a therapist back then around that time who, when I had a panic attack, and he would say, well, let me know when you're done. I'll wait here.
That's
I said,
good.
what? I said, what? He said, let me know when you're done having your panic attack, and then we'll talk some more.
Yeah, that was
And I
good.
wanted to kill him until I saw he was right. I was doing it. It was my choice to have a panic attack. Now, some people have them and they don't know that, and it can be an awful thing to say to them. So you got to only say it to the right people at the right time.
Right.
But the really neat thing about all this that I'm hearing is like we're all struggling, and we don't need to be. And there's this bigger brain, as Nick kept talking about, that's thinking us, and it knows what it's doing. Linda, the other Linda, let's hear from you tonight because you're very early.
Well, I'm done with school. So I don't have a class that runs till like 9:15 every Thursday. So yay. No night classes again for the next year. So well, first thing I want to say is that Shelby has been in the basement all day and came up because she could not resist when she heard class. And I at some point we have to figure out what it is about this cat that she has to be in this room when you're talking. When the other guy started talking, she was gone.
Give me your birth chart.
If I knew, I would. I mean, I have no idea.
She's
But
a high cat.
She's got something going on. I don't know what it is.
So what are you hearing tonight?
Well, I mean, when I listened to that, I thought, I'm thinking about that this is not this is an idea that's not just in the Course in Miracles. It's
Right.
all through,
Right.
human culture. It's part of the, native tribes idea of the long body, where everything we're all connected. That, there's no real separation between us and the animals and us and each other, or, whatever you want to say. So that was part of it. So that was probably the first thing that came to my mind. And the other thing is that it reminded me that most of the time, I feel guilty about this, but I tend to live not deciding things until it's clear to me what I need to do. Like everybody says, they do lesson plans. I don't do lesson plans. I have stuff. I put stuff out for students, and then I walk in and then I know what I need to do. And it's never, in many years of teaching, it's never failed me. And so I guess I'm a big believer in it in a lot of ways. And in when I think I feel certain about something like this today, I thought to myself, well, they're going to find Trump guilty. And then I reminded myself, you can't, there's no way to know that. There's just no way to know. And the last thing I'll say about this is, when you were talking before about Eris, all I could think of is that the indictment of Donald Trump says the United States of America versus Donald Trump. That's what the document says, and I think that's a significant thing, that whether it's the 360 million people in the country all speaking that, but it is in fact the government we have in place saying, that document speaks for us as a people. So I have some hope about that. I think Eris, the good side of Eris may be, wanting fairness, wanting equilibrium, wanting some kind of accountability for what's going on. So that's probably, and Shelby just walked through here again. So I have to say, she must have.
Just think about this new America. I'm almost nervous saying the words. The idea of a new America where people are, what was that I was watching? Oh, Liza and I watched a show about rape. And it was so awful, based on a true story. And it was based on boys will be boys, and you get away with it, and you shove it underground. The girl's going to give up, and she is going to end up in prison for false reports and all this. And you could see in the crowd, the men were feeling differently. This was not the old boys in Alabama, Mississippi, saying shove it under. They were looking at each other like, this ain't right. Well, this ain't right is Eris. You might think it's this thing. It is Eris. I don't care if you call it frog. It's here. It's here to stay. It needs to be talked about. And another scary thought, this is going to end up making astrologers look more and more correct. No. What we're going to do with that, Claudia?
Well, I'm hearing a little bit more, a few of them talk about
Yes.
Aries. It makes me really, because like you've said in the past, you can't chalk it up to Pluto. This isn't Pluto. So there's something else. And I think we'll see. Eventually, maybe more and more will start to get curious about Eris. And that's yet to be seen. But there's more than even 2 years ago, even just.
That's right.
Which is, it's good. That's good.
Well, think about the other 79.
Yeah, I can.
Got 79 more.
Yeah,
Christmas packages to open.
I know. That's a
Wonder
little
what's in
overwhelming.
those.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about that last night. We have come a long way to be one, and then two, and then 80.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're really advancing. It's not just old geezers getting older. We are really advancing psychically. Well, I think we're all getting more and more reluctant to blame somebody else. The old days, it was really easy. Things are really changing really quickly. Let's spin forward and see what Unplugged looks like 10 years from now.
Wow.
I don't know. Thank you all for
Rick,
being with me. Yes.
I just
This is Erica. Erica, go ahead.
the whole thing about a lot of cycles are like 40 days. Christ went into the desert 40 days, so many different. Well,
You're breaking up on me.
oh,
Yeah. Try again. I don't know what's causing it. It's
Hear
breaking
me?
up.
I took my ear pods. You can't hear me?
Yes,
That's
better.
better.
Oh, you hear me?
Better now.
Okay. So on July the 21st, Pluto squared the nodes of fate. And exactly 40 days later, on September 1st, the nodes of fate are going to oppose Eris on September the 1st.
Where are you getting the nodes of fate?
The nodes of fate are just the nodes, the nodes of the moon, the north node and the south node.
Oh, okay.
So if you look at where Eris is right now, it's 25 Aries and the North Node is 28 Aries. So in another less than a month, it's going to be conjunct it and the South Node will be opposite it. So the South Node is the tail of the dragon and the North Node is the head of the dragon, you know, where that part eats and the other part expels. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on September 1st because of that square 40 days before. And then that's going to be a very significant day.
Well, keep reminding us of that stuff because
I
I
will. I'm
must
gonna
admit I'm
watch it.
still a student of the nodes. I'm still learning. Okay, everybody. Thank you, Erica. Thanks, everybody. We did not tilt. We did not lose
did
our
it.
signal. We
And
done
Shelby
good.
made it.
Thanks to Uncle Nick. Everybody's an uncle on the show. Thanks to Uncle Nick. And thanks to I
Uncle
don't know
Rick.
what relative are we gonna call Eris? Probably an in-law of some kind.
No.
See you next week,
Thanks,
everybody.
Rick.
Bye.
Big
Bye,
man.
everyone.
Next
Can I ask you a
Off
question?